My marriage was hunky-dory when I was working for the candidate. But when it transitioned over to the candidate becoming president and there was an opportunity for me to work in the White House, I became overly ambitious on that at the great detriment to my marriage. And so I was neglectful, fighting with my wife. My children felt neglected. So eventually, my wife and I got to the verge of a divorce and complete separation. But once I was rejected from the White House, as painful and as humiliating as that was, it caused a major recentering of my priorities. It was an awakening for me, and frankly, I learned the hard way how important it was for me to put my marriage back together and to be focused on the right priorities as opposed to the wrong ones.
Deidre, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So it's got to be interesting, I guess is the word, to experience this from your point of view when all this happened really fast.
Yeah.
How did this affect you guys? Did he come home and say, guess what? I'm going to start working in the White House?
No, we actually never really talked about it. So obviously he was campaigning with him. I was involved with that, which was great. And then one thing led to another, kind of like spiraled out of control. And the next thing we knew, Donald Trump was the president.
Yeah.
And Anthony was, signed up to be with him. So it was never really a conversation. It was definitely a weird dynamic. I knew that he always had political ambitions, but this kind of happened, and we never really discussed it before. So
you didn't discuss this with your wife?
No, but he's kind of like an impetuous guy. In many ways, that's great. In some ways, it's tough when you're married. He's really driven. He's really motivated, which I admire, obviously, and I love about him. But in some situations, you would want to have that conversation. Especially this type of.
How did she react to the new job?
Listen, we were fighting as a precursor to the new job, and I think what is important here, as with everything, when you're having failure in a relationship, failure in a job, is to be personally accountable. And so for me, I would say to people in the same situation, get your priorities right. And so what happened to me is my priorities went upside down on me because of the situation, and I became overly ambitious. I became misguided, and I ended up doing things that today I totally regret. And so now there's two things you have to do. You have to, one, forgive yourself, and then the other thing is the people that you love, you have to actually turn to and ask for forgiveness.
You had filed for divorce about the time you took the job, right?
Well, actually, okay, so it goes back like maybe to the campaign, because he was working so hard and like really involved with it. And we have a young son who's 3 at the time, and I was also expecting another baby. So it's kind of hard to be home. Sure, a lot of people can relate to that. You have one young son and one on the way. And I was like, where's Anthony? I miss Anthony, that kind of thing. And so we had some tension. It wasn't like major. It was, marital tension that people have, especially when you have young kids. It's stressful. But then, like I said, he got elected, which was completely surprising to me, at least. And then
maybe some other people could be surprised by that. Maybe.
How did your family feel about Trump?
It's really tough on me and my family because
they're not big Trump fans?
No. No, honestly, some of them are. To be fair, some of them are. They're not. It's not totally like polarized to one side. It's nobody talk. I used to set ground rules like nobody talk about politics. Like don't say anything. I was all stressed out. It was ridiculous.